The next speaker is already on its way, and this is one of the team leaders of the actual preparation phase. It's Plesko, and he is the
Microphone?
Well, I have here one, so I give you mine.
No, that's okay, no?
But he probably has a better one there already.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the slides are here or not? Yes. Okay, good. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, 10 minutes. Yeah, so I'm speaking fast, but not as fast as Sonja. But I'm trying to catch up. So I will try to give you a case study. What would be the benefits specifically for regional industry? And what I want to tell you is that all this cooperation between industry and laboratories, that is done in partnership with laboratories, is beneficial for everybody, for the industrial companies, but also for the specific laboratory, for the accelerator community, and even for the wider society. And of course, I cannot make such a nice analysis as we heard before, as Vesna has done, but I suggest that to prove my point, it's enough just to take one region. Let's randomly select one region, and if it works in that region, then we know it will work in all the others. So if you look at the map, this is the latest Google map copy. I just copied it from Google. Let's pick one region. I don't know which one. Okay, for example, okay, let's take Slovenia. I mean, it's just a randomly chosen region. Because there is a very nice accelerator close to Slovenia at the Letra, it's just 2 kilometers from the border, let's include this one as well, okay? So, but it's purely random. I mean, you could choose any other region now. Before we go into the details of this region, let's just remind ourselves which are the 3 possible ways that industry can collaborate with the research facility. One is that industry performs research at the laboratory. For example, this is typical your single radiation. There is biomedical research done by many companies like this. The other thing is that the industry licenses technology from the laboratory. We have technology transfer people here, they know how it works, and then they use this technology in its own products and sells them to a different market. Or the third is, of course, that industry could develop things, do things specifically for the large laboratory, and then what it learns there could sell to other laboratories. And you look at all 3 possible models. Case A, so this is the industrial use of laboratories. This is a picture of Electra. They even have the one in the circle. This is an industrial beamline, which was built by an industrial company. By the way, there is also a Slovenian beamline here. So I think it's okay to use Electra in the Slovenian example. And you can see that many of these beamlines actually are used for industrial research, X-ray, for diffraction, X-ups, and so on. So this is a very classical model that is used also by regional companies. Then case B is that industry licenses technologies. I will present 2 cases. One is KNALS and the other one is KIMA. And let's look at the first company. KNALSS actually is a company, it's a spin out from KAN, which I'm sure at least some people know very well. And KAN ALS makes basically power supplies and electronics. And they licensed technology developed by Electra. And of course, who was the first customer? Was also Electra. That makes sense. So they built a series of power supply for Fermi. There are some pictures for that. But already the next step was that they were expanding worldwide. This is a picture. You remember the red, can color, those that know. I mean, there's some people. So this is an installation full of power supplies for KNLS for the Tsukuba accelerator. If you look at the list of customers, you see there are a lot of customers in the accelerator world, but also outside, for example, Bosch and Bruker and other companies. So this is a very simple example. You take some technology, power supplies, you make it industrialized, and you sell it. And this company was established in Sežana, which is just in Slovenia across the border from Italy. The next case is KIMA. KIMA maybe is a bit more complex case. It is a joint venture between Electra and between 2 companies. One is Euromisuria in Italy and COSYLAB in Slovenia. And the purpose was to build ondulators for light sources. Then the company KIMA created a 100% owned subsidiary in Slovenia. And this is a picture of the inauguration where also the Minister for Research was there and Professor Ritsuto, the well-known. So the production facility was in Slovenia. They used the local, the fact that things are slightly cheaper in Slovenia than across the border in Italy, and also the result of production capacity there. And this is a picture of an array of undulators. Again, who was the first customer? It was Electra, but since then the company has gone worldwide and is basically the single specialized producer of undulators for laboratories. This is one that went to Brookhaven. Another one is one of the pictures is from Damfysik, from Aarhus, Denmark. They did Damfysik, sorry for that. Asia, in Korea, but they have customers also in India and everywhere in the world. Now let's go to the third case. This is where industry develops something for laboratories, and I give you two cases, Instrumentation Technologies and COSYLAB. And both of the founders of these two companies, they have worked as young people at the Letra. So again, they learned the trick of the trade at the Letra. So Instrumentation Technologies, they are building basic instrumentation, digital instrumentation, beam position monitors, low layer RF, and other things. They're very successful. They, for example, won the prize for the best fast-growing company in Slovenia, Gazelle, visited by the Prime Minister. Now he's the president of Slovenia. So you see the same people rotate like in all the countries. Huh? Maybe also here it was very similar. So the person who did it developed the digital BPM for the PSI first as a consultant to the PSI. Then he had the idea to produce it. So PSI was the first customer. Then he thought I can do it better. So he had two launch customers, Soleil and Diamond. And based on that, now actually this company is worldwide. So this is basically a picture of who is who in the accelerator world. All light sources in the world, all accelerator laboratories use at least one instrument from this company. And for example, they made a new spin-off. They had some idea, oh, why don't you make a very small compact oscilloscope on this picture that we can connect to a mobile phone. Actually, the director of SEEIIST in an article, I think you can just read the quote. I think it's very nice, right? Obviously, it has to come from an accelerator laboratory in Slovenia. That's the obvious choice. So you see, just a small region with a little spin-outs, it makes it obvious. And I think in 20 years, people say, where does it come from? Obviously, from I don't know, from Montenegro or Albania or from the West Balkan region. Last case is COSYLAB. That's a company I have founded. So it was actually a couple of students. We did the control system for the Anka light source. We learned how not to do it by doing it. And since then, we knew how to do it better. This is a list of our customers worldwide. So all the countries where there are accelerator projects. We have branches also in the United States and in Sweden, in Switzerland, Japan, China. We have a representative in Korea. And we also cover about 60 to 70% of the market for particle accelerator control systems. Again, a few of our customers, pictures from Medostron. And it was the same here. Medostron was our first customer in proton therapy. We learned how to do it. And of course, then once you know how to do it, then you can go out in the world and sell it to everybody else. Okay? This is a nice example of a collaboration of industrial companies. FAIR, you know, the big FAIR project. Slovenia is a member of FAIR, and the contribution is in kind, not in cash. And there's actually a consortium of 12 Slovenian companies that took over responsibility to deliver certain parts of instrumentation and controls. And you see, it was basically started with two companies, COSYLAB and Instrumentation Technologies, but then we got a lot of other companies around us, companies that develop and produce electronic boards, companies that make vacuum chambers. They did the mechanics for the beam position monitors and similar things. So you see, you can make a nice ecosystem around for just a single project. So to conclude, I want to give you a sum of my wisdom. It works even in Slovenia. So if it works in Slovenia, it can work anywhere in the world. Okay. The company started work with accelerator labs. There are benefits for everybody. The companies, they got the kickstart, so they could go and then expand worldwide. The labs, they got products that were of industrial quality, high reliable products. And the society, obviously, we got new jobs. We stopped the brain drain, even reversed it. We have a lot of foreigners working for these companies now in Slovenia. And we are, you know, as a side product, we are curing cancer. So trivial things. So I think that the similar potential we have here in this region, and I think it can be done in the SEEIST countries the same way, of course, with the help of everybody from the international community, which we have here, from the SEEIST Foundation. And well, if you want, we can also chat a little bit about the Slovenian experience. Thank you very much.
Out of the project. Thank you. I say a question, COSYLAB, everybody knows it. They are the best in the world. They are everywhere. Now the next talk is from Dr. Milašević from the Clinical Center in Montenegro. and you have also 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Okay, thank you.
So after this very interesting talk about industrial network, I will talk more about clinical network. I have to say that I'm very pleased to be a part of this great meeting, and I want to thank the organizer, Ministry of Science and Clinical Center of Montenegro for inviting me here to give this short talk. I will talk about hub and network for oncology. I want to emphasize at the beginning of the talk that I use position paper of SEEIST for the majority of the information on my presentation. So the first known use of term Southeast Europe was in 19th century, and it's a geographical region consisting primarily of the Balkan Peninsula. So when we talk about Southeast Europe region, it consists of around 10 countries with approximately 42 million of inhabitants. So we can say that this is a large population that shares similar problems in health policies, but also similar life expectancy, which is around 72 years. Southeast Europe International Institute for Sustainable Technologies will operate with the mission of Science for Peace, which we heard before in talk of Dr. Damjanovic. So two main objectives will be new opportunities and mutual trust. The first is to create new opportunities of cutting-edge research and technology for the welfare of the region. And the second is to help building mutual trust among scientists and engineers, and also among administrators and politicians. So why do we need networks in oncology? Because of multidisciplinary tumor boards, which is a teamwork of doctors with different specialities, to get second opinion in cancer treatment, especially from centers with high volume in treating some types of cancers. And these centers are likely to provide a better treatment, which leads to better survival prognosis. And of course, for rare cancers and childhood cancers. I have to mention the meeting held in Montenegro on September 2018. It was the meeting of the Southeast European Regional Network for Radiotherapy and Oncology, and it was organized by the Clinical Center of Montenegro in cooperation with the Ministry of Science of Montenegro. It was the first step towards formation of a network of radiologists and oncologists in the region. And I have to say that it was the great opportunity to exchange experiences with leading experts, but also with medical doctors from the region. Its first aim was to link oncological institutions, not only with the Future Institute, but also with other oncological institutions from Europe, and also to strengthen capacities. So we have to establish three networks within the framework of the SEEIST. We heard about industrial network, and we have to establish more clinical and scientific network. This network will be essential for the success of the SEEIST. So to reach these goals, clinical, scientific, and industrial goals, these networks will have to be set up from the beginning of the project and continuously extended. The hubs of these networks will be placed in countries that are different from the one in which the facility will be built, and this will make the best use of all the expertise in the region and facilitate the approval of the overall project. So, clinical network will give the opportunity to the hospitals and oncological institutes of the region to work more together and to refer patients to the facility to share clinical prospective investigations. It will also allow the radiation oncologists of the region to work more with their colleagues, European and non-European colleagues, especially at HIT, CNAO, and MedAustron, in prospective studies, and to improve their knowledge in radiotherapy, not only in hadron therapy, but also in classical radiation oncology through clinical research practice. I have to emphasize that every call to an international project is a new chance for development of a clinical network. So, what should organize clinical network? Identification of eligible cases, discussion of these cases in a MDT, multidisciplinary tumor boards, organization of teleconference meetings, which we do in our country, but we have to organize a regional network, multi-center clinical studies, and some surveillance programs by one of the centers of the network that can last for the next 5 to 10 years. But before all of this, we have to do education and training. The training of the oncologist and radiotherapist is an essential part of this initiative. So we all know that the realization of this project will take several years. So we will have sufficient time to make a future team, but also to form a user community. And I have to say that facility will be linked to the universities of the region, so facility will be a partner for future master and PhD courses and theses. So at the end, I can say that one of the main goals of the facility is to train highly competent experts in numbers which exceeds the needs of the facility. So the part of these experts will be employed by institutions or hospitals in the region. And all of this will not only raise the quality of the work done in the region, but also the cultural level in the region. Thank you.
Very much. Yes, it's certainly one of these topics which we really rely on your contribution, as you explained it, to organize the region with a medical core, with the industrial core, with everybody, which is part of the whole idea of Mr. Sonja. Okay, we have one more speech here, which is on this topic on Dr. Albana Topi from GSI. Oh, she's already, yeah, she's from the region. So.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Albana Topi. I work at GSI, but I'm coming from Albania, and you heard many statistics from the presentation of Vesna for how the situation is, and hearing, no, this is the reality. I'm not sad why you did that, is what the facts are. But this also triggers me and motivates me to work in this field and to make this change. And when I first heard about SEEIST, it was like really a great moment that bring all this region, all these countries together, and only science can do this. So I will start with my presentation for today about the experiments that we can do in radiobiology. I don't know if this is working or. Oh. So before we start with experiments, there are some questions that we have to ask. So first of all, what do you want to do? Because when you have an accelerator, there are like a long list of things that you can do, starting from radiobiology, in vitro, in vivo, clinical radiobiology, medical physics, and then you can continue with space radiation research, space radiation protection, dosimetry, etc. But then on the other hand, there are, like, we have to know what we always need to have. And you have to have in this facility a beam extracted in the air, a monitor chamber, beam uniformity and spot scanning, and dosimetry. I mean, we had a lot of presentation when all these points were discussed. And what is also important, next to the cave, when you do the experiments, you have to have a biological laboratory, dosimetry laboratory, and an animal facility. This is the map of GSI. This is the part of what we have right now in blue. These are irradiation facilities, and the fair part in red. And here we have the radiobiology for low energy experiments, and then 2 caves, that is cave M for medical physics and cave A for high energy radiation. And for the fair, we have the biomat, that is like the new experiments with high energy and intensity that we will have. So let's start with the experimental room, let's say, what we need to have in the cave when we are performing these experiments. So we have to have a fully equipped room, optimized for biological and technical samples, and also to be good for high dose and high LET radiations. And in this room, what we need to have is the beam scanning, the range shifter, beam modulators, room lasers for to position your target, and conveyor belt, what we can see in the last pictures here, where you can place these samples, and then this belt is moving, and then you can irradiate step by step different samples, for example, for cells. Also to have video camera, especially to monitor what people are doing, not touching anything dangerous in that room, and also to see how your experiment is going. And also important is to have these Ethernet cables where you can monitor your experiments in the control room, right, remotely, and compressed air and sample holders and flask changer. What is the new flask changer that is in the pictures on the top there was developed at CERN, at GSI, and starting from this manual positioning of our samples, now we have like the robotic arm where we can place our samples and then do the irradiation. Going to the biological laboratories, this is just to give the idea of the floor plan of our laboratories that we have at GSI. And this is not like a huge space when we were talking about having not like a big space, but something that can be useful, but also cost effective in the sense of space. And what we need in these laboratories, we need incubators, we need safety workbenches, and these are photos of this lab, and electronic cell counters when we do the experiments with cells to count how is the survival rate, and centrifuges, microscope, fume hood, and autoclave. And then we come to a topic of animal studies. These are different species that are normally used in experiments, starting with rats, mice, zebrafish, and Xenopus levis frog. And I would ask you, when you see this picture, what is that? It's like, it's not my wardrobe, it's not my fridge, but this is actually a place to hold the animals before the irradiation. But I have to point out that this is not for long term, but this is to keep it close to the lab where you can access it easily to get your animals that you have to irradiate. And coming to this point, to make these experiments with animals is not easy topic, because first scientists have to apply to create this proposal where he has different points, how many animals he want to use, how these experiments will be done, and if the animal will suffer, and all the problems related to this field. And after he has prepared this application, he submits this to the local committee that, together with animal protection representatives and the local veterinary, they do this committee meeting, let's say, where they decide that they will give you, or they will grant you the access to have these experiments. And finally, you have the approval But you have to keep in mind that doing these experiments, it might take from the day that you apply to the moment that you your proposal is accepted, it takes up to 1 year, which in the meantime, while you are waiting for your application, someone on the other side of the world has done already, and then when you get the application, then you have to change something, but then you have to wait for another year to be accepted, and so it's really a long process. And so what is important at this point for the new facility, to have the liaison scientist, that there are some important things that this person has to know, like to know the national, let's say, animal protection law, to know English, and also the national language of the place where this facility will be, because in every country they have different rules. And of course, if you are doing these experiments in Germany, you have to write this proposal in German. And if you are not German, how you do? So if you have this person as a bridge, let's say, so you make your proposal maybe in English most of the time, and this person can help you with the translation and also with suggestions sometimes that maybe, oh, these are some details here that might not go well, so maybe you can change it. And then you can do your application and hopefully get the approval. Here I want to give a good example from the Brookhaven laboratory, just to give the idea how these rooms are, like in the terms of size. Let's say here, is bad that this pointer is not working. So there are different, let's say, the sources where the beam is coming, and then it's passing to the booster, where is the synchrotron, and then where is the R line that you see is like the beam line that is zoomed out to see different specification about the magnets, and then is the lab itself, and then we have this facility that is what we see here. It's basically this in the picture, and what we see here are different specific areas, like control room, like it's pointed with A, and the cell labs in C and in B, and the animal labs, where this helps also to keep these animals and also for the experiments, and physics labs. So taking into account the size of it, so we see that it's like 4 meters, let's say, and you can get like approximately what's the dimensions of this building. So it's doable and not that expensive in the sense of, in terms of how big it is. And this was example, I was speaking on this example after GSI because I heard many of the presentation for different facilities, but not that I didn't want to talk about those facilities, but you already heard how it was done in Heidelberg or in other centers. And I would like to say that SEEIST is what us, the young generation, is looking forward to see for their countries, and is what is like a dream to be true. And I'm really honored to be today and to, let's say, work in Germany, but also to make this presentation and to be involved in this project with a heart, and to think that, yeah, our country can be one day and can work again, let's say, all together with the other countries. And with that in mind, I would like to thank you for your attention. Thank you, Sonja, for your invitation. Thank you, Marco, for your help. And also I would like to thank my colleagues, Alex, Walter, and Julia, that they helped me with this presentation, especially Marco.
Thank you very much. Yes. When you talked about the fact that you can't present any proposal in English in Germany, that is not a good example for the rest of the world.
Maybe also other countries. I mean, this is, even if you come to Albania, I mean, we want you to write the proposal in Albanian probably, so.
Okay, you want to defend the bureaucracy of Germany. You have a question?
Yeah. Annual experiments in vivo are also quite a bit on the list of SEEIST. My question to you, are there strong reasons to go beyond in size those animals which you have at GSI?
You mean in size of, like animals in the big size?
Are there good reasons to go to larger animals than those which you investigate?
Well, there are different reasons. Mostly they use mice and rats. We have also Marco here that can respond to this question in many details. He is the expert of this field. But it's hard for me to say that, but also on the other hand, comparing the size and also from the biological point of view, of course, we cannot be, let's say, equal to a mice, but maybe for the larger size, let's say, animals, it's more near to human, let's say. But still, it's not like the correct answer that I can give you. It's not like, yeah, Marco maybe can comment on this in more detail, yeah. But mainly, these are what are used.
If we enter this discussion, it will take quite some time. Yes. Yeah. So since we just have a quarter of an hour already spent, if there's no urgent other question, we go to the question how to reduce the power consumption of the new facility with the next speak on regional, sorry, this is the energy production. We are just on the short task section, and we learn about the solar energy to bring all the electricity which you need to run an accelerator. And I think this next speech is programmed here. Dr. Hasandić from the Bsmart Blue and Green Council. He's already here? Good, but we made a mechanism that your speech is so important that we should wait that more people come. So the bell is ringing, and I guess we then have to start because it will take too much time afterwards to finish. So thank you very much. You tell us how you do with solar energy. You're much better than Jordania. And therefore, all the facility energy question is solved.
Of course.
Good. Thank you.
So
you are the next.
Yeah. Thank you. So that's good afternoon, everybody. That's I'm Almin, and I'm from Bosnia. I'm member of Green Council. Green Council is one organization in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Also, I'm co-founder of two very interesting company in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and that's something like a startup in electrical field. Again, in a green energy. So today we have a very interesting topic, that's sustainable energy production. For this SEEIST, it's very important actually. Today we have a lot of topic about medical, etc. But for every of these investigations or something like that, we need energy. So today we start to make something like propose for this institute. What we have a potential in Balkan region, actually that's South Europe. And East Europe, that's something like that we will start. So the first thing where we go actually is that something like 1 hour project in Bosnia. That's something scaling of production and what we can do. So in Bosnia, that we have a project, the Student Pavilion, that's fully bio-based, and that's more important thing is this additionally nearly zero energy building. For this title, that we have a zero energy building, that's probably something very important and for this today event. And for that we have a lot of something like sponsor partnership and also partners and expert in this field, near energy zero buildings. So for that we come to something very interesting topic, that's photovoltaic systems. That's very small system actually, but it's very good to see what we have of potential in Balkan region, actually in Montenegro or Serbia or Bosnia or Croatia, etc. So we have something like photovoltaic installed power at 2.5 kilowatts. Also, that's location in Sarajevo in Bosnia, and today I heard that next year we will come in Bosnia and meet Sarajevo. That's nice, and also we can probably organize to visit this building. But in 1 year we have energy production of around 3,000 kilowatts hour. So more important things to see here is that all Balkan region has special difference between summer and winter. So in the summer we have energy something like around 350 kilowatts hour energy, but in winter you have more than half of them. That's something like that we need to be careful when we make something like design of photovoltaic systems for these projects. So return on investment ROI for this project till 5 years. And also in this, we implement battery storage. Battery storage is actually very important today because a lot of electrical vehicles come to improve this part. And this system is in island mode. It's not connected to grid. So we have two options in this phase of design to create something to connect to the grid or be alone on that part. So on next slide, I have something very interesting, and I will use actually this opportunity to thank Professor Schopper for this information. We have a Sesame solar power plant that's located in Jordan. That's something very interesting because we have already, that's actually the first something like building like a large accelerator in the world that's fully powered by renewable energy. That's first one. Probably this project will be second one in the world. So we have here, there's something like 6.48 megawatts of power. That's amazing power actually for solar. And lifetime of this from technical aspect is 20 years, but investment in more around something like $7 million. That's huge investment also, but that's from EU funds. So it's possible to use same for these projects. And when we see everything, we have a return on investment 2 years. That's much better than Bosnia on our small projects. Reason for that is price of electricity. In Jordan, you have the price $0.35 per kilowatt hours energy. So that's more important things for Balkan region and our countries here to show a price of our electricity. And also on this is very important that we have something like CO2 reduction that's more than 7,000 tons per year. So that's probably most point of this. And for Montenegro, for this presentation, I do make something like interesting things, find. And I find something that's in Montenegro, in average number of sunny is 240. That's amazing, actually. This is the best place for photovoltaic. And also in Jadran, you have something like one city in Montenegro that's have more than these days. That's I think that's Ulcinj. And that's very interesting. That's average number of sunny hours in Montenegro at 2,480 hours. That's the big potential for this. And I use something like very interesting software that's Physis and Homer to make first calculation. What if we Sesame come to something like power plant in Montenegro, what will have like results? So if we use the Podgorica near the airport, we have a lot of space. And if we install the power of 6.48 megawatts, same technical, something like 20 years, and use prediction that we have total investment same like Sesame, but probably we can reduce that because we are in the Balkan. This is everything is cheaper, isn't it? So on that way, we have total energy production with this analysis around 9 millions of kilowatt hour. That's amazing energy also. And return investment in 12 years. So there is some problems. Reason for that problems is the price of electricity in Montenegro. The average price is something like $0.055 per kilowatt hour energy. When you compare this price for price of Jordan, that's amazing. There's a big potential to implement this laboratory. And also, this is actually the return on investment is not so bad because you have additionally 10 years of work in this solar power. And also, when you see something like a graph, you have yearly production. That's something like simulation. Of course, you have some plus or minus in a year. But again, you can see the critical moment, summer and winter. In winter, you have something like half of energy than in the summer. And that is important. When we make something like design of this power plant for this project, we need to make calculation of everything on winter because that's critical point. But in summer, we have a lot of in everyday free energy that we can storage or put on grid. So we need to make a choice and also make something like additional calculation and go deep of this something like research. So that's for me, and thank you for your time. And I think that is it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, a lot of discussions about solar energy and the battery storage, which you talked about. You are developing batteries, or what are you optimistic that you get enough storage
Yeah, I think that's in the next probably 2 years. A lot of company now is something like
starting on
in
this.
the industry do that.
Yeah.
That's definitely.
Okay, yes, Herr Schropper.
Just better storage, of course, is one possibility, but I think in the case of COSYLAB, this system was integrated in the general network, so the general network became the storage, which helped also to develop the general green energy in Jordan in general.
Yes.
So I think that should be also, this possibility
Yes.
should be considered.
That's something very interesting. That's probably the best choice is to connect to grid, because today every grid go to smart grid, and probably when we implement something like of this power plant, that will be something like of start of something like smart grid. But it's very important that today in this project implement something like expert from this field, and in start of beginning of design implement all of this something like strategies or something like that. So I think that's, thank you.
Very good. Other questions? So I think this is one of the possibilities to reduce the operation costs.
Yes.
And to even make political important statements on how to operate future facilities. Medical physics specialist is now on the agenda, or you are there. You are there. So which one was dropping out?
Thanks. Before I start with the presentation, I would like to ask you to pay attention on this video, and please don't take into account in my 10 minutes this video. So this is the video that shows how the structure we need to irradiate goes out of the planet field direction of the beam because of the breathing of the patient. Everything is fault of the medical imaging, actually, and makes a headache of the medical physicists working in radiotherapy. If we don't know, if we don't have that image-guided radiotherapy, we won't know what happened actually in the body, and the physicists won't have that headache. This is the main duty of the medical physicists working in radiotherapy, actually, to put that structure we need to irradiate into the beam direction, and in the same time, not damage the healthy tissue, which also make a mess in that direction of the beam. Thank you. I will start with the presentation now. My short presentation is for the medical imaging in radiotherapy nowadays. Thanks to the minister, Dr. Damjanovic, and the organizing committee that invited me to be part of this event. I'm a medical physicist working in radiotherapy in Skopje, North Macedonia, in one private hospital. And I will talk about what we have nowadays in my country and in the countries around, in the Balkan countries, more or less the same. So there is University Hospital Radiotherapy Service situated in Skopje, in the capital. There are actually 15 medical physicists working in radiotherapy. In University Hospital, they have 3 variant Linux and 2 Electa Linux that are situated in the other buildings, but they belong to that hospital and they are doing all the checking. They have 2 simulators and 5 Linux for now, for the radiation. And one private hospital I'm working in. There is also radiotherapy center. We have in this center MR, PET-CT, CT simulator, and 2 AX variant Linux. Imaging modalities used in medicine are radiography, as we all know, ultrasound, computer tomography, magnetic resonant image, and positron emission tomography. All of them we are using in the daily radiotherapy practice also, because the main goal in radiotherapy is to deliver as high as possible dose to the volume of interest, to the tumor we need to irradiate, and spare the surrounding healthy tissue as much as possible in the same time, of course. The delivered dose should be the same as the predicted one, and also the dose should be delivered on the certain volume, not out of that area. So to be sure that the delivered dose is the same as the predicted one, the machine functionality, the beam calibration error, and the calculation algorithm uncertainties should be checked all the time and followed by the medical physicist. And how do we know that that delivered dose is at the right place, at the place of the tumor we need to irradiate? It depends on the patient position error and volume of interest delineation precision. So the medical images actually are necessary for structure contouring and patient position following. Doesn't matter what is the technique you are using for the radiotherapy treatment. The delineation of the volume of interest is one of the crucial topic in radiotherapy, and it depends on the tumor tissue visibility, which is mostly depending of the image quality, images we have for the before the treatment and for the radiation oncologist experience. Still, computer tomography is the primary modality for image-based treatment planning all over the world. And you can see one transversal slice here, and it's almost impossible to see the tumor here. But there is a study for if the oncologists, the different oncologists are making the contouring, the difference between different oncologists is more than 10%. For the radiologist is on the right side, on the right picture is a little bit less. But when you have that not modern radiotherapy technique, it's not very much important because you have two beams, opposing beams, and anyhow all that volume is going to be irradiated. So the difference in the contouring is not very much important for the treatment itself. But nowadays we have treatment that the beam is going through some very strong shape of the projection of the beam, of the tumor on the direction of the beam. So we must be more careful. Especially for the new techniques like intensity modulated technique, when the beam is modulated like the intensity of the beam is modulated because somewhere near the tumor there is a healthy tissue that must be avoided during the planning of the treatment. You can see it once again. So you see, it's, yeah. This is something with the higher intensity and lower intensity. Probably here it's surrounded with the tumor, here it's surrounded with the healthy tissue. So integration of the multimodality imaging data for radiotherapy treatment planning is beneficial and indispensable for perfect delineation. The CT is still mandatory for planning everywhere, and magnetic resonance and PET-CT is using for the registration before the treatment. Why MR? Because MR is superior for the soft tissue recognizing. And we are making registration between the CT and the MR the patient made before the treatment, and we can easily contour on MR and use that one on the CT for the treatment planning. And also PET-CT, because conventional anatomic imaging with CT has limited sensitivity to identify the anatomical borders of the tumor. We already saw that transversal slice. And functional image with PET can provide information that can influence RT planning if it can reveal targets that are not well visualized by CT actually, or magnetic. We can see now that functional image and CT and PET are registered, and we can see the functional and also anatomical place of the tumor before we treat. So this is integrated PET and CT imaging system. We can see the tumor on the PET, and we can see anatomically, geometrically when it is on CT. With the registration of that images, we can use the benefits of the combined technique. That was for the pre-treatment, before we start planning the treatment for radiotherapy. And when the treatment is planned, is ready, we should make verification on the plan without patient. We use it with electronic portal imager device for the plan verification. We can see we irradiate the plan without the patient to see the functionality of the machine, of the multi-leaf, how they are going in the reality. Compared with the prediction one during the planning, and we can see see all the profiles everywhere in the field. How are they matching the predicted one and the measured one without the patient? And if everything is correct, the treatment can start. Before the patient starts with the treatment, every day we make the radiography with the kilovoltage imaging, radiography for the on-site patient position, and cone beam CT in 3D for the on-site tumor positioning. Because during the treatment, which is 25 days, 30 days, something can change in the patient. So this is just briefly how we match the images. The left one is the predicted one, the right one is the real one before the treatment started. And the KV also matching the images, and we can see the difference in the position geometrically in each three dimensions. And also after the treatment, we can see what we did actually with that treatment. This is the predicted one we made before the patient started. And on that CBCT, we put the same plan we really irradiated, and we can match the images and see what happened in reality in that particular daily treatment. This is one IGRT in practice for one patient. You cannot see on CT that tumor. Thanks to that PET-CT registration, it's found the region we need to irradiate, put the margin. Because of the breathing and because of the setup errors, make the plan and the dose distribution. If we are satisfied with everything, you can see the date of the patient. We are satisfied with that one. Start with the treatment, with CBCT verification, plan on CBCT. But this is the 8th day, CBCT 8 is written. Means the 8th day we realize that the tumor is shrinked. We made another CT, and again verification, and so on. This is how it looks like nowadays in radiotherapy, in image-guided radiotherapy. So radiotherapy uses image guidance procedures to delineate the target volume and organ at risk, and identify and correct the problems that are arising from inter and intrafractional variation in patient setup, anatomy, target volume, and organ at risk. Additionally, excessive dose from the intensive imaging procedures could be a limitation in IGRT, but imaging must be balanced with improvements in the delivery of the therapy, and it's necessary to have a collaborative team from the radiotherapist, physicist, and technologist, which is crucial for that one. So we are doing that one every day, so we know the philosophy of the radiotherapy. We are ready, we are looking forward for the newer technique, and we hope that we will be even better with that project. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Are there questions concerning the present? Yes, please. Samut.
Is your vision a hub that is within the main site, or is it a vision for a hub that would be far away from the main site for this imaging hub that you described?
What is my vision, you mean?
Yes.
I mean that we are, in my country and in the country around, nowadays they are all equipped with that new technique for the photon radiotherapy. We are talking about photon, everything was like this. The proton one is different in the physics point of view, but the philosophy of the radiotherapy is like this. We just need the new physicist, the young one, which is, and I mean that it's we can be in the good how to say, we can follow all the other part of the world with that facilities.
Okay. Yes, please. Question.
Okay, thank you very much for your lecture. But my question is, do you estimate the radio sensitivity for each patient in vitro in blood samples with the micronucleus test? Because it is very important, which you want to avoid the damages surrounding healthy tissue.
We are making that test we are doing from the physics point of view. We know the sensitivity, you mean from the tumor or from?
No, generally radio sensitivity of each patient. And you take, for example, 1 milliliter of blood, and after that you irradiate it in vitro with 2 rays, gamma rays.
Yes.
And after that you determine the number of macronucleus. This is show that
It goes to the other part.
yes. In accordance to that, it is very important because in this
it's
way.
very important, but we are not in that.
Yes, of course. Thanks.
Okay. If there is no other urgent question, we have Professor Ristova to tell us about North Macedonia.
So we have seen this slide almost 100 times today. I'm skipping it. I'm just going to the slide where I want to point out that not only these guys here who are coming from the Western Europe who decided to help us and give us the knowledge for free. We have provided that part of the binary system, but we have to provide a system also who will receive the knowledge. And we have on the other side a depleted countries who are losing their citizens, and their brain is draining like a river, like a waterfall, like Niagara waterfall. So we have to provide this side, like the sea, needs to be attracted to the western part of the world in the respected science to build up sea region. But we also have to provide people for this. And how we are going to provide people, the knowledge givers should learn more about the characteristics of the sea region, so to tiptoe in providing people, because people may be scared in this region. They are full of fears, and they always think maybe these guys are maybe want to do something with our citizens, with our cancer patients. They will be like not secure from the generous offer of our scientists here who are generously giving their knowledge. So this kind of problem, it's very important to be addressed. We are 43 million people. We are half of Germany, 10 times Switzerland, and we have to, we deserve this kind of therapy, but we have to be very careful how we are receiving it, because the governments and the politicians may not be very happy in receiving a high-tech facility without having a general level of the facilities, of the medical facilities developed in the country. So see, GDP per capita, you have a continuous spectrum of all kinds of GDP per capita from 10,000 to 34,000 in the region, compared to the region developed Europe, Germany and Switzerland. I put Malta because Malta is comparable on the size with Slovenia, with Montenegro, I'm sorry. So see what we are dealing with. We have a full spectrum that need to be improved. This is not a homogenized environment to build up a high-tech facility without achieving a normal level of the primary health system. So we have to work in parallel. In these 8 years, we have to convince the governments that they have to build up and improve their health systems. So the proof that the migration rate is very bad in the region is here. See, all the countries have losing their citizens. Macedonia is false positive. They are not positive. They're losing citizens, but we have migrant crisis. We are getting migrants which are remaining into the country, so false positive. I don't know about Greece and Slovenia, but I think Greece is also false positive. Death rate, we can conclude from this chart here that we are dying more than the developed world. I mean, this is a picture of bad health systems, probably. And bad habits also. People are drinking too much in my country. Maybe all over the Balkans is the same case. Life expectancy also. You see the life expectancy. Majority of the countries in the region are having a life expectancy like 5 years lower than the highest life expectancy countries, which are Switzerland and Greece and Malta. I'm sorry. So number of physicians on 100 population is an important indicator of the health systems. See, we have, in average, most of the countries have 4 point something, while others have 5 point something. And see, Switzerland and Malta have a good life expectancy. They have only 4.7, so this is not a problem. But Germany, I would like to blame Germany on depleting our health system from doctors. They're employing doctors from the Balkans, and we are losing. I lost my general practitioner. He went to Germany. He went to village. So we have to convince the government of Germany that they shouldn't steal our health potential, because we have to rely on this health potential to develop the SEEIST system. Hospital bed density is not so bad in the majority, but there is a part where it is really bad, and in parallel we have to work with the governments to improve, to help them improve. Montenegro, Bosnia and Albania have really bad figures of the number of beds. The data are from the CIA, Central Intelligence Agency, so it's from the website. Why should we, the knowledge receivers, trust to the knowledge givers? You know, I was very suspicious when I came in Trieste. I didn't know anything. Why is this person, Sonja Damjanović, a minister, calling me and calling the Minister of Science of Macedonia to create a team to see these presentations of the project? But immediately I was infected, I would say, with the project. I mean, it was a magnificent forum of science that really convinced me that this is my dream also. This is not only Chopper's dream, this is not only Sonja's dream. This became my dream. And we have to have this approach with the scientists and politicians in the region. Make them think that this is their idea and this is their project. If they feel this is there, they will feed their egos, sometimes malignant egos, and they will think that they have done this. So the approach of convincing the politicians is most important. So the rest of my presentations is how to convince the people. Why we should believe? Because it is initiative of the proposal was made by Professor Herweg Schopper. And this is nothing but a great achievements in the world, in the science of peace. I mean, the Geneva summit was the time, was the moment when the end of the Cold War started. And it was initiated by the Director General Schopper. So that time, these guys, Ronnie and Mikey, they are already in a physical contact, very important, breaking the physical space, making alliance and saving the world. Because I was a student at that time and I was waiting every day for these missiles to start, showering from one side to another, and we are in the middle, we will get all of them. So this is Schopper. Schopper is also the LEP, Large Electron-Positron Collider. But not only that, he's a Lord of the Rings. He created several rings. The rings were Bessie, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. The ring is, who wanted to take a picture? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he succeeded to make the tunnel. And I regret for he's not here. He may confirm that he was missing a couple of millions. He went to the Geneva Pension Fund to get the money to end up digging up the hole of 27 kilometers with 6% interest. I mean, this person is really amazing. I mean, why people would not trust such a person? I mean, I'm fully into this. He created Sesame as well. And I would go with, if he was able to put on the same table Israel and Palestinian Authority, he can put us. We are on the Balkans, are crazy tribes, which are always in some kind of conflict, but Schopper can put us on the same table and teach us how to work together in science and create science for peace. Research for the good of the humanity. So for his achievements in the Sesame project, set up a synchrotron radiation for, he has got an award, which was the American Association of Advanced Science Award, Science for Diplomacy, with all the other protagonists of the Sesame project. He was awarded in Washington, D.C. So why should one believe in particle therapy? This lesson was made for hadron therapy for dummies. I was expecting more politicians here, but I don't know where they're swimming somewhere. And this, yeah, there is one here. We have a Bulgarian politician here. So the policymakers and politicians should be able to understand what is a hadron therapy, first of all. I don't know how much you have understood. This politician is actually a physicist. He's a professor, and he understands. But I prepared this especially for them. But we will go shortly. Classical radiotherapy with photons. I made some animations. We have a tumor, we have X-ray photons, and if we have this line going exponentially down, then we can have this sort of radiation is absorbed by the tumor. This sort of radiation is absorbed by the healthy tissue on the entrance, and the other one is at the exit. So damage is done on the entrance and the exit. But also we can have particle therapy and see the difference. Particles are irradiating, and there is a wonderful feature called Bragg peak, which is a lovely thing, unexpected outburst of energy into the end of the journey. So those particles are traveling and dying, thermodynamically dying into the tumor. So this is a perfect feature that could be used to make particles stop at the target and see the energy consumed by the tumor compared to the energy consumed by the exit tissues and the energy at the entrance tissues, and go and put them into one table, and in order to compare, see how we can elect particle therapy to be our first choice if we had access to it. So if we get access to the particle therapy, we wouldn't think twice if we have a choice to choose between those two therapies. Yeah, I would say a particle is a suicide bomber that dies in order to kill a tumor cell. So this is a carbon 12 hitting the target. Why should one believe in particle hadron therapy? It's a lesson too also for dummies who are not in the hall here. But let's see what I have prepared for them. Once upon a time, there was a little being called Smiley, and he was nice and happy, always smiling, but he has got a cancer all over his yellow tissue was affected, but his eyes and his mouth has to be spared. Let's show you what the Smiley's doctors were discussing, what kind of therapy treatment he should receive. One said radiotherapy with X-rays, and if we irradiate Smiley, the sick Smiley, from 6 gantry positions, we will end up, Smiley's eyes and lips will be burned out, and the cancer together, and Smiley will end up not being able to see and eat. Smiley will be dead. Radiotherapy with intensity modulated X-rays was explained with one of the previous speakers. So let's briefly show what is intensity modulated. We block with piece of metal, say, those rays where we don't want the field to be irradiated with X-rays. So we remove those X-rays, and again, irradiating from different positions in a manner that healthy organs are preserved, we end up with a residual tumor, and we know what will happen. But with the particle therapy, see, this ideal particle, charged particle, which can be stopped depending on its entrance energy of the accelerator, at the positions where the sensitive organ starts, so we can control the entrance and avoid irradiation of the sensitive tissues, and we will get a good conformity of the field, irradiated field, and Smiley's cancer, it will be cured, his eyes and lips will be spared, and he will be great. Western Europe meets Southeastern region in the SEEIST. Their goals are very noble. Their goals are for the humanity, for the health of the European citizen, for the people who need radiation therapy of this kind, and only that one will be savior for their lives. We will need physicists, medical doctors, IT engineers, the multidisciplinary teams to get together from the both sides and learn from each other. With this project, the know-how will be transferred to the SEEIST region, so to the Southeastern European region, but also the pool of knowledge and the task force from the Southeast European region will contribute to the fundamental research in the clinical research in the projects. We are doing everything to make it happen. This is also my project, my dream. I'm influencing you to adopt it as your dream too. And cost actions will help the Marie Curie, ITN, International Agency Regional Project, it was before mentioned, IPA projects. ICTP relevant schools will be very happy to make this happen. And we are having this innovative training network, open call, which we are preparing application to make an army of young scientists, like 15 doctoral students, will complete their degree into the leading scientific organizations that you have encountered this morning session, in the afternoon session, to achieve the knowledge and build up the community and jointly build up the possibility for leveraging the benefits of this institute. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. I always appreciated your direct and clear words, and I'm happy that you joined the team in January, if I understood.
Yeah.
And we will profit from your presence. Also, you should criticize at CERN some of the activities.
Thank you.
So I don't have a question, I have a just comment. You realize that we have a beautiful logo of SEEIST project, and this is thanks to creativity of Mimoza. So thanks Mimoza for that.
Thank you very much. So you have a job, you know. Good. We have now Professor Litov on the list. Please, you have your microphone.
So, okay, so I'm going to present here some estimation of the expected number of patients in the region, which is not so easy task, by the way, taking into account that the available statistics for the countries from the region is not quite good. It should be this one. Yes, okay. So I'll start with something which you already saw actually, but we have to take this into account, that the number of the first of all, I would like to say that in this presentation I have used two types of data. The Bulgarian Cancer Register data from 2015 and the World Health Organization for 2018. So Bulgarian data I'm just using to demonstrate the influence of different parameters on this number. So I'll start with the number of new cases. So this is the Bulgarian case, but it's just the same for all countries, not only in the region, but in Europe. And here we have to take into account that if you normalize this curve to the number of inhabitants, because this number is decreasing all time during the years, so we have to really observe a significant increase. So at the final number, which I'm going to show, after that we have to apply some additional correction that this center will start to work after some years, let us say optimistically 7-8 years. Okay, this is the first thing. The second one, no, the opposite direction. Sorry, up, now it works. I don't know. Actually, this is repetition of the slide of Vesna. showing the real situation in Bulgaria, but it's just the same for the region. This is the 5-year survival rate for the malignant diseases for Bulgaria and for the European Union. As you can see, we have different, oops, this is not the, sorry, really, I went through my presentation. Okay, so this number just shows that in the case of Bulgaria and the countries in the region, this rate is lower than the European Union, which tells us simply that the treatment of the patients is not as good as in the European Union. Partially explanation of this fact is, if you look at this map, it was shown several times already, is that in the region we have no the proper equipment actually to treat the patients in best possible ways and this is one of the reasons to create this project, SEEIST, which we are discussing now. Now, another important input is that we have different modalities to treat the tumors. And what is shown here is, for example, for the surgery, about 35% are passing through surgery. Part of them also are treated by chemotherapy or radiotherapy, or some of them are going directly to chemotherapy or radiotherapy. So you see how these numbers are changing. And what is important, because here we are discussing radiotherapy, we have several different modalities, possibilities. The standard way is to use the linear accelerators and to irradiate patients with X-rays or electrons. The other options are protons and C-ions, and the number of patients which are eligible for different kinds of radiotherapy is actually different from for the different tumors. From what depends the number which we expect to have as patients in our center. First of all, this is type of the cancer. For different types of cancer, I'll show this. We have different % of patients going for radiotherapy or for proton or ion therapy. Second, of course, is the stage of the cancer, because when you look at the new cases, I'll show this, we'll see that there are significant difference depending from the type of cancer. Very important thing is a national protocol, by the way. I'll comment a little bit later on this. And of course, available equipment and protocols for treatment of patients. Non-negligible is the role of actually the national health insurance system, because it depends what is paid and what is not paid by this insurance company. So all these parameters should be taken into account. Now, let me give you some statistics. This is based on the Bulgarian data, cancer data. So this is the distribution of the most common cancer sites by sex and age group. You see that for the young people, we have not so much cases, but by the way, later on I'll show that it's very important part of the patients for the proton therapy. The majority of patients, as you see these numbers here, are adult ages after 60. On the next slide, we have here the distribution of new cases for females, and what is visible from this table here is the most often case is it is the breast cancer. Also, the contribution of cervix uteri and ovary cancers is quite big. Otherwise, the other type of tumors are more or less uniformly distributed between different age groups. Now we have continuation of this table, and look, there are a number of tumors which are mainly, you can see them only in the group of children and young people. And this is one of the defining groups, by the way, for the proton and ion therapy. Next, the same table for the males. So the most often case is a prostate, of course, and the other very important thing is lung. You see the numbers there. And again, also in this case, we have a group of tumors which are typical for the young people and for the children. Now the other important input is the stage of the cancer when it is observed for first time. As you can see, for different cases, the situation is drastically different. For example, the breast cancer, the nice thing is that the majority of the cases are observed for first time at first and second stage, which is okay, it helps a lot. However, if you take, for example, one cancer, we will see that the majority of the cases are observed only at third or fourth stage. So these two types of stages require completely different way of treatment of the patients. Now, just the same with the prostate. Prostate, fortunately, is observed relatively early, but this is not the case with the head and neck tumors, which is a significant part, forming significant part from the potential patients for the hormone therapy. You see that the most often we have a big number of patients coming for third and fourth case. So the other input, very important, is the national protocol of treatment. Because what we have to take into account is the following thing. First, the number of the new cases, then how many, which is the fraction of the patients which are going through radiotherapy, and then to estimate what is the number of these patients which are eligible for proton or ion therapy. So looking at this table, this again are Bulgarian data for four most often cases of tumors which are treated by radiotherapy and after that ion therapy. And you can see that the estimated number of the expected patients from Bulgaria is 300, let us say. Now, this is the Bulgarian protocol, and look at these numbers here, which is this person here. For example, the breast cancer, we have 42 persons which are directed to the radiotherapy. Now, the next table is the Dutch protocol. Just the same initial numbers, but look, in Netherlands, 83% of the patients with breast cancer are going to radiotherapy. It's 2 times more than the Bulgarian protocol. There are many reasons for this difference. One of them is, of course, the available number of linear accelerators in the country. So anyhow, if we are using this protocol, we are getting a number which is 2 times bigger for expected number of patients. So, so we have to remember this, and in what follows, I have applied the Bulgarian protocol because I think for the countries, for the region, so they are closer to our protocol than to the Netherlands. I'm not sure that is a good decision that 80% are going through radiotherapy, but this is another story. So this is a question to the medical doctors. Now, another important thing are the available protocols for treatment with protons and ions. What is shown here is the different type of cancer, the number of existing protocols in the world for treatment with protons on the left column and with the ions on the right-hand side. One thing is what is important, we see that for some tumors we have no any protocol yet for treatment with ions. So the total number is 160 about, and only 40 of them are with ions, and this is one of the important things which you can do in SEEIST, because you can, one of the tasks will be to develop new protocols for treatment with ions. Now, now let me come to the region. What is shown here, this is already the World Health Organization. The data are from the last year. So we have here the number of new cases from the countries from the region. I was not able to find data for Kosovo. But Kosovo is 1.7 million, so we have to correct the final result by 2-3%, which will be the contribution coming from Kosovo. And we have, we also can see the percentage. Okay, I think I have a graph. Okay, so this is just the same data, but presented in more better way probably to understand. So we can see the number of new cases of cancer in the countries in the region. Here Greece, because Greece is an observer, is also included in this table. Now, let us go country by country. So using and applying, so we were able to find only for this breast, prostate, and lung cancer. Unfortunately, there is no data for the head and neck, and the contribution of this type of tumors is quite big in this in the number of the expected patients. But you see, for Albania, we expect something like about 50 people. Bosnia and Herzegovina, 80. For Croatia is 140. For Greece is 400, a little bit more. For Macedonia, North Macedonia, we have about 50. For Serbia, 293. It's a relatively big number, by the way. I don't know what is the reason behind it. Montenegro, 18. Slovenia, 80. So if you, and Bulgaria, in this scheme, 216, the difference between these 216 and the other 300 which I have shown is due to the head and neck patients which are not included in this table here. So the expected number of total number for the region is about 1,400 patients per year. And definitely this is the lower limit for this number. Actually, if you add head and neck cases, we should increase this number by 20-25%, something like this. And also we have to apply additional coefficient for this increase during the years of the new cases. So the conclusions is following the population of the 9 countries behind the project is 33 million. If you add Greece, it is 43 million. Population of Balkan Peninsula, including European part of Turkey, is actually 75 million. This is again just the same region. And estimated number of the expected patients for SEEIST member states is a little more than 1,000. If Greece joins the project, it's 1,400. And for the Balkans region, is at least 2,500 people. This number strongly depends from the national protocols for cancer treatment and can vary significantly from country to country. The above numbers definitely should be considered as lower limit, and one very, very important conclusion from this results is that if other center, obvious thing is that SEEIST is not covering the needs of the region, definitely. Because just to remind you, we expect to have something like 500-600 patients per year. So the expected number actually is 2, 3, 4 times bigger if you want to, we want to cover the region. So if even the other center, for example, for treatment with protons is built in the region, it will be complementary to the center which we are discussing here. And this is a very important message, including for the politicians, for the region. So those are my conclusions. Thank you very much for your attention.